welcome to the Pop Council Podcast, the show where we cover everything in pop culture. Each week on this show, we discuss topics in the geek world, as well as various fandoms, such as Disney, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, theme parks, and everything in between. I'm Jami, Philbrick, entertainment journalist and critic for We Live Entertainment, and a member of the Hollywood Critics Association. Today, we have a great show for you. We will be discussing big news, Scarlett Johansson suing Disney over Black Widow. Our first look at a photo of Renner and Hailee Steinfeld in Disney Plus's Hawkeye. New Shang-Chi poster, J.K. Simmons returning to play Commissioner Gordon in the Batgirl HBO Max movie. A surprise Predator movie is coming out called Skull, new Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and Ghostbusters Afterlife trailers, and much, much more. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Wendy Zadie. Hi, Wendy.
Hello, how are you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was pretty good, worked a lot, but got to spend a little time with the pup and get out in the sun, so that was good. How was yours?
It was good, less time in the sun, but equal amount of playtime with the pup.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, you can't beat time with the pup in the summer.
Yes.
So Wendy, we always try to get the best guest we can on the show.
Of course.
And this week we have got a great one for you. An old friend of mine. He is an actor, a comedian, a producer, an acting teacher. You've seen him in films like Blade, where he played Pearl, as well as Sergeant Bilko, Problem Child 2, and the original Candyman. It's my great pleasure to welcome to the show Eric Edwards. Eric!
Woo! Yay! Hi, how are you, Jami?
Hi, Eric.
Good.
Hello.
I'm good, man. Thanks for joining us. So I just ran down a little bit of your resume, but for our audience, tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm an actor, an acting teacher at times, a writer, do the stand-up comic. Although the pandemic has been a little bit of a bummer on the stand-up thing. I have a son with special needs, so right now I can't be mingling as much as I normally like to do. I won't. Also, I'm an avid jiu-jitsu practitioner, Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. Let's see. So that's what I do. I try to just mix it up. I'm still in the game. I love acting. I love doing live theater. I love working in front of a camera. I just did a top secret pilot 2 months ago. Hopefully it will see the light of day, but a lot of things can happen from when they say action to the release date, as we all know.
Don't we know it? Don't we know it?
Oh yes.
Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, and let's not forget, I did do a little movie called National Lampoon Senior Trip, starring Jeremy Renner.
Yes, you did. You did.
Young Jeremy Renner.
Yes.
Well, we have some Hawkeye talk coming up, so we'll definitely talk to you about that. But I wanted to ask you, because we were just talking about this last week. Marvel is going to make a new Blade movie with Mahershala Ali as Blade, which is, I think, terrific casting.
Mm-hmm.
They just signed on a director last week. And we were talking on the show last week about how, it seems like X-Men, Bryan Singer's 2000 X-Men, really gets a lot of the credit for kind of ushering in this sort of comic book era of films that we've seen. But for my money, it was really Blade in 1998, 2 years before X-Men, that showed the blueprint. People have to remember we were coming off of Batman and Robin and Steel with Shaquille O'Neal, right? So comic book movies were kind of dead theatrically. And Blade came out and really showed the blueprint of how you can do it sort of in the real world. It was even predated Matrix by a year and had the leather and all the kind of stuff that X-Men then adopted. So my question to you, obviously as someone who was on that set, on that production, involved in it, what was it like then? Obviously they had no idea what was coming, what they were doing. Marvel, the MCU was not even an idea in anyone's mind. The different licensing was all over the place. What was sort of the vibe on the set? What did you guys think you were making?
Well, first of all, that because Blade is such was a little bit more of one of the more obscure comics of I think of the Marvel universe. I mean, I think the big blueprint with that is that I thought I was doing a Wesley Snipes movie, if that makes any sense. Because at that point he was was gold. He was box office, and then you throw in Steve Dorff, who had some box office hits, but also known as such an actor's actor at the time. I think that was the formula. That was the formula, because from that point on, if you notice, really good actors became cast in these superhero movies, in these comic book movies, and that's what made them incredibly more watchable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
Right.
that was the. I mean, look at even X-Men. That cast is phenomenal. Plus, you get a director who's a great storyteller. You know that, and you really put a good pin in it, making it real world. Because what's great about Blade is they made it look like New York, even though they shot it here on the West Coast. Also, what I thought was really, I make this movie and at the table read, and also let's not forget about Donald Logue in
Yes.
I mean, like, they really brought in phenomenal actors, the authentic actors, into these roles. So they brought a lot of humanity to it. It's kind of like when the first Die Hard hit the scene. Oh, there's an action hero where the action hero is scared at times. You know what I'm saying? Where he's like living out, like, so you brought in this comic book movie, or what would presume as a comic movie, but you put in these amazing actors that bring so much life to the role that you're watching. You're tricked into watching even dead humans, because they're vampires,
Right.
being human. And that's how I think the connection was made. And when I was at the table read, I was like, oh my God, I'm part of something. I hope I don't get cut. Please, and then when I saw how much money they dumped into this character, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna at least live out. Yeah, there we are.
Well, here you are.
Oh my gosh.
I know. 8 hours. I think I was in makeup 7 hours in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And it was fun. I had a guy playing my right hand and a guy playing my left hand. And it was wild. I mean, like, you'd hear stories about people falling asleep in the makeup chair, and I would have these crazy dreams where I was always in like a hailstorm, and that was them using the tip of the brush to, like, make the prosthetic fit to my head. So I would have these crazy dreams. And there was actually like 2 or 3 days where I was in makeup the entire day and never saw a camera.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, well, all right.
You got paid. Got paid for your day.
Absolutely. And also, it was a blast. Then when I saw the movie, a little bit of trivia, we knocked out Saving Private Ryan as the #1 movie that day. And when I showed up and I saw that movie, also it was I remember I brought this I can't remember even what the very attractive young lady's name was, but and she pointed out something kind of cool about the movie that I didn't, like, I took for granted, because she's Asian American. She was Asian American, and she said, finally a movie that I see people that look like me in. And I thought, I was like, that's pretty cool. You're right. I go, that's really cool. Also, another thing I thought Marvel, especially as they progressed in the universe, they really, Stan Lee was known for that, right? Where he would always try to make it the world. And that's why, like, I really appreciate the new Spider-Man world, because it looks like Bronx Science. You know what I'm saying? Like, it looks like, oh wow, yeah, this is what it would look like, and it's pretty cool. But that was another thing she pointed out about Blade. And man, Donald Logue and Stephen Dorff acted add the expletive out of that movie. They were just amazing in that movie.
What was it like for you to work with Snipes? Because really, your scene was with him.
Yeah.
Can I be very honest? First of all, he was like nothing but cool, my interactions with him. But that movie was so big, and they put so much money into that movie. They had literally 2 sets running at once. So as soon as he was done with his close-up, he was off the set, and I was running lines with his because they couldn't move me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They couldn't move my character. So And he was, I mean, like I said, my few interactions, he was really cool. I mean, he was a nice guy. Steven Dorff was very nice. The few interactions I had with him. The director was super cool. The girl that played the woman that played his love interest from Dead Presidents.
Right. I don't remember her name. Oh, was she the mom or was she the girlfriend?
The girlfriend.
Latham.
Latham. I think that she was. Yeah. I think that might have been her. I don't. She was no. It was Nobushi Wright. I think that's right. Like that.
Latham was the mom.
Yeah, it was the mom. Was just insanely pleasant. That's the one I got to talk to the most.
Okay, right.
Because she was more my scenes, and I guess he had all these other. They had two huge units going at once, and by the time I got on board, I got cast. I got cast in I think November, and I didn't see the set until March.
Wow.
So it was a big drag, and here's what was so. Jami, I used to weigh 375. And when I got cast that movie, I was at my physical. When I got cast, I was at my physical biggest. When I shot the movie, I had probably lost 80 pounds, and they had to do my head had shrunk a little bit. And this is how big I was. If you were to look at the model of my head, which I gave to Stuart as a gift, it looked like the head of Biggie Smalls. Because the cast they used, it literally, that's how big I was. So that was also, that's another movie that will always be special in my heart. The reason why was because when we came down to negotiation, because at that point when I was getting cast in the movie, I was the GOAT. Farley had passed away, God rest his soul. I was that guy, I had the biggest heat behind me. So my attorney, who was awesome, who actually I think ended up representing Marvel at one time, he was so excited because he goes, "We're gonna soak these guys for everything." And then eventually, when he got so much out of them, eventually the producer went, "Wait a second, hold on. He's in 8 hours of makeup. There'll be a guy playing his right arm, a guy playing his left. This is a voiceover job. This is what we're going to settle for." And then they pulled in the big gun. They had at the time, I think Val McCaffrey was the head of casting, and she was the person who gave me my first break in the first movie, Problem Child 2, without anybody. Literally,
wow.
A woman gave her a note that I put on my headshot that said, "Can you please read Eric Edwards? He's a good friend of mine, Valerie." So he said, we would like to close today at this price. Can Valerie would like to remind Eric that she gave him a good break without knowing no one in this town. She would like him to consider that. And then I looked at my buddy Tim Toulay, and he goes, "That's the power of a casting agent, right? Of a casting
That's
director.
it.
That's
it.
Guilt."
That's Hollywood, baby.
They get Hollywood, and it was great. But that was when I realized, oh my God, this is a voiceover job. In other words, I mean, I beat out 200 some people for the role. You know what I'm saying? But I went, oh, so I don't need to be a big guy to work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I will always hold Blade. And also, it's the best start to finish movie. I think start to finish, arguably the best movie I got to be really involved in. So I was like, it lit off the Marvel universe. That's the big debate.
Yeah.
The real nerds will go, it was Blade, because then would Bryan Singer have went to the X-Men? I mean, would that have happened if that was not such a huge hit?
Well, I don't know that Fox would have even wanted to make X-Men at that. You know what I mean? I think it was really
property, right?
Yeah. I think Blade really showed all these studios what they could do with this material.
And then it also set up the style of you're right. I didn't ever thought about that. The Matrix definitely was influenced.
Oh yeah,
by Blade.
Oh yeah.
When you start looking at you start seeing how. That's why it's very interesting, because it happens in stand-up a lot, where they go, he stole that joke, and then you go, well, let's really break down where that is it really, or is it just another version of this joke that's been told for
Very inspired by.
inspired by? But here's the thing: when you said that they really brought the real world, and that's what's also slightly why I've always liked Marvel a little bit, just a little bit more than the DC universe was. It was New York, and they had the street characters and the Universal, that kind of thing. Is what I liked what Singer did with the X-Men when he kind of brought in the the Holocaust.
Right.
It was like what a very cool, interesting way to introduce the universe, and with Blade, them being so street and being so ethnically diverse in so much blood.
Right. Yeah.
That was it was great, man. I mean, it was all. I mean, that's one of those wins that I have going. At least I was in Blade. You know what I'm saying? That's
for sure.
That's a pretty cool. And I got and Wesley was great, and also like I remember at the table read watching those guys work, just seeing them edit lines, like as they're reading, they're just cutting lines because it's an action movie,
right?
Not a it's not a comic book. And even sorry.
That's crazy. Listen to all the stories.
Sorry,
my mind is blown. My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, it's just pretty. I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, and like I said, I watched what Stephen Dorff did in that movie. Man, holy God, was he good?
Yeah,
so
he was so good. He's a great actor. Wendy, did you have anything you wanted to ask Eric before we move on to the topics?
I did, because and I know we focused on Blade a lot, which is so fun to talk to somebody who has actually been in Blade, but you've also been in tons of other TV shows and movies, Problem Child, Candyman. Do you kind of notice any sort of genre you drift towards throughout your career? The one that you specifically like?
Whatever
best actor answer.
The big thing is that, well, I mean, obviously the first thing is comedy, and now well, actually, I've made a genre of speaking. I've made some really interesting. I was in Little Rascals, Sergeant Bilko, Beverly Hillbillies. Those are 3 TV shows that were turned into movies. And I guess that's sort of it. And then in theory, I did 3 or 4 National Lampoon movies. So I guess technically comedies is, what, I mean, and the whole thing with Candyman is, I mean, don't blink. Matter of fact, the line that I was scripted to say, I think got cut. And it's only kept me was saying hi to Virginia Madsen, which, hold on, just. Very responsible for my puberty in the late 80s. I mean, that's another thing that's a pretty amazing horror film. I forgot that was a big, kind of a unique movie, and now they're remaking that. They rebooted that franchise as well.
Yeah, coming out this fall. Yep, coming out this fall.
And that was like, I mean, I knew nothing about the character. I know there was always that. I think Bloody Mary was the one that you were saying. There's always a version of saying in the mirror, but that was also that movie did. If that movie might have had just a slightly bigger budget at the time, the first one, it would have. I mean, because it scared the crap out of me, and I was an adult. But then, of course, you see the effects, and they go, "Oh, that's where they didn't quite have that money." But
right.
But now with I'm sure the reboot is going to be flawless, as far as those things. And it was pretty. That was a pretty cool. I always forget Candyman because I only worked a day on it, and it was the only cool story I had other than I was a production assistant on a show called Young Writers when I was before I came out to LA. Starring Academy Award nominated actor Josh Brolin and Academy Award Melissa Leo. Just we drop those names.
Nice.
And I think Xander Berkeley. I worked with Xander Berkeley. Was did a guest role on that before me working with him on Candyman. He of course did not remember me, and why should he? We didn't interact much. But however, the best boy electrician was the same best boy electrician out of two, on the Young Riders that was on there. So that was kind of cool. Oh, now you get to work with me as an actor. So that was kind of cool. Little
Oh, that's awesome.
Back to your show. 'Cause I will tangent, guys. Just FYI.
No, it's great. I love it. Are you kidding? Give us all the Hollywood secrets.
Well, Wendy, should we move on to topics? Is there anything
Let's
else
do it.
you would? All right, let's get right
Let's do
into
it.
the topics. Obviously, we don't want to spend too much time on this because I think a lot has been said, and they covered it on Trending in Hollywood the other day. But obviously, a big story coming out this weekend. It dropped on Thursday. Is that Scarlett Johansson is suing the Disney Corporation, Walt Disney Company, over Black Widow, and it has to do with her contract. She got points, and because they decided to also launch on Disney Plus, that was not in her contract because Disney Plus did not exist when she signed her contract. So the money that would have hypothetically gone to the box office has gone to Disney Plus, which they legally don't need to share. And I think that's sort of, maybe a simplistic way of looking at this case. Obviously, it's a legal case. There's a lot of elements to it. But that's basically what's happening here. And as we know from this weekend with Jungle Cruise, they had a sort of a similar thing happen where, they made, I think, 60 in theaters, but an additional 30 on Disney Plus. And so I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop there and see if in the next 2 to 3 weeks we hear that Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt are also suing. I have to just say real quick, and then I'd love to hear Eric's thoughts on this as an actor in this new era of streaming and all these other things. But I just think good for Scarlett Johansson. I mean, she's got nothing to lose here. They've already killed her character. And the movie, if you've seen it, spoiler, but there is a way that you could have 2 more movies fit into this trilogy between where she ends at not excluding the end credit scene from Black Widow, the end of the actual movie. There is still time between there and Infinity War. So you could do 2 more films. I think they probably won't because at this point it seems like it wasn't financially successful, and they're really looking to, go with Florence Pugh moving forward. So, and I also feel like if this was Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans, would we be hearing about it? Like, would it be as big a deal? Like, I don't think so. And Disney threw a lot of shade back at her, like, COVID times, and you need to be more respectful. Like, they wouldn't do that if this was Downey Jr. So that's just my thoughts. Eric, as an actor, how do you feel about this?
Well, first of all, to have such problems, one, but also she has earned that right to. I mean, look, I like her. I think she's awesome. She married a stand-up comic. God bless her.
It's true.
Which gave all, so I think that's awesome. I wish more, that's the thing is I wish as a union, us actors would maybe stay more together and say, wait, because, let's be quite honest, Disney didn't go broke.
Right.
And this was yes, there are all these unforeseeable things, but I think maybe she should have said, hey, a little something for the effort, you did make a substantial lot of money on Disney Plus. Am I correct?
Yeah, they made 30 mil opening weekend.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I think, I would love to be in that situation, but thank God she is taking, and look, she has the right, you're right. She has the right to, because she's Scarlett frickin' Johansson. She can afford to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and she was out there for over a year promoting it and doing all the stuff, and she's been a real trooper, honestly, for the MCU, since Iron Man 2 the whole time. So, yeah, well, Wendy, what are your thoughts on this? I would assume you're behind Scarlett on this, but where do you fall?
Yeah, for sure. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, girl, get your money. Get your money. You've been in this role. You've wore the spandex tights for 12 years. For all the episodes, all the posters with, the backwards shots and all that stuff. And yes, people can say but that's her job. Yes, it is her job. And she fulfilled her job. She did all the press. She did all the marketing. She did all those press junket interviews that you and I know takes all day hearing the same questions. We get it. And she still gives you 100% as much as she can. So I don't think she's in the wrong to ask for it. And also to note that her lawyers, after, Disney kind of fired back with that statement about COVID, did say, well, this isn't just because it didn't do well at the box office. Now she wants more money. So now it's the lawsuit. No, there's email records that show that she had been concerned about the release strategy from a while ago. And I know I personally was kind of hoping for Black Widow a theatrical only release, not because I don't care about COVID, because you guys know I do talk about it all the time here, literally don't go anywhere. But I think it's just a movie that Black Widow, the character, and Scarlett Johansson deserved for being a part of the MCU for so long, that I really wanted to see it, live to its theatrical glory. Obviously, times are different. We got to do what we need to do. So I understand that. So as far as the lawsuit goes, yes, I think she's in the right. And also, I think moving forward, it could open up the can of worm for other, actors doing it. We were already hearing kind of rumblings, and none of this is confirmed. So this is all rumor. But Emily Blunt, and Emma Stone could be maybe looking forward to the same thing. So I think moving forward for actors, they're going to be looking at that contract and being like, well, what if it doesn't go to theatrical only? What if it's day and date and streaming platform? They're going to build that into their contract moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is sort of like it feels to me like a loophole that as a corporation, as a business, they're taking advantage of, meaning Disney, because, the box office is the box office. And then if we end up, because of this unfortunate situation, having to stream also, I mean, that's money that would have come out of the box office. That's not Blu-ray money. That's not residuals from television airings. That's the opening weekend box office in our new world. And so I feel like it's just a way of them really cheating these actors out of what they earned and what they deserve. And of course, Eric, I agree with you. Like, this is, a high quality problem to have, but it's,
yes.
it's still an issue. And Disney wants to stay, I would imagine, in the Dwayne Johnson business. So, and they certainly would take a lot of flack if they give him a piece and not Emily and not Scarlett and not Emma. It's a big PR problem that they. Eric, I don't want to cut you off. What were you going to add?
Well, no, I was going to say, look, I just wish more actors, like, in a perfect world, everybody else should say, well, guess what? We're not suiting up until we figure this out, because they're going to do this the rest of the next Thor. I'm saying they're going to. This is their new platform. They're going to release it same day.
Yeah.
And it, like, once again, it's a little loophole. Oh, we forgot. And someone used to, who is it? I can't remember who the salty character actor told me this, is that, look, and as much as our union is at times incredibly worthless, I'll be the first one. But if it wasn't for my union, I wouldn't get those residual checks from TV. And it was Borgnine, Ernest Borgnine, who was like, why am I not making money off this thing that I made, McHale's Navy? And he basically got blackballed for 10 years for, but he took the hit. And now, because of people like him, I make money off of things I got, Candyman, still I get a check.
Right.
Nice.
So if more people, and that's been the big thing with streaming, is it, you're trading, in theory, quality of the work for what you might make financially. However, though, they're still making money financially. And I think sometimes they abuse that seed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be nice if we, as more people, like, if it wasn't just, from Scarlett on down, but like, the rest of the Chris Evans, they should, well, he's dead now, but depends on.
But that's a good point. You've got her MCU castmates. I haven't heard anyone chime in about this yet. And you've also got, obviously, SAG. I haven't heard them chime in. And the other thing that I've heard was that, Disney really pushed the release of Black Widow because they can't release the Hawkeye TV series until Black Widow had came out, because Florence
of the end
really
credit
going to
scene.
be, and she's really the villain in the Hawkeye TV series. So they needed Black Widow to come out So that now I don't know if that's true. That's what I read in our good friend at Forbes, Wendy Scott Mendelson had written that over the weekend. So, but that brings us right to the next topic, which is in fact our first look at Hawkeye, the Disney Plus series. There's your old buddy Eric. There's Renner, all grown up as Hawkeye, and Hailee Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, who will be being passed the torch, or being passed the bow and arrow, really, of Hawkeye in this new series. Now, Wendy knows this about me, Eric. I am a huge Green Arrow fan. You can see I have Green Arrow stuff all around me in the background. But I did, just for this week alone, I have one Hawkeye statue. What can I say? When it comes to superheroes, I have a type. I like the bow and arrow guys. So I don't know. So I got that, but only for this week. He'll go away for next week. I love the Hawkeye character. I think that it took Renner and it took MCU a little while to get him going in the films. He had sort of an auspicious start with Thor and then being brainwashed throughout the entire first Avengers. But I really love the character and what they built with it. And I'm a little surprised. I mean, not surprised. I get bringing in Kate Bishop, but they had built up so much with his daughter, who's not a comic book character, but her in the films, especially with that beginning scene in Endgame. I thought it maybe, they don't always do everything exactly the way it was in the comics and the MCU. So I thought maybe they would do this type of series with him passing the mantle to his daughter. But, he'll get introduced to Kate Bishop and we'll find out why. Eric, let me pass it to you. Obviously, having worked with Jeremy at a young age for both of you guys, an early part in your careers. When you started to see him really blow up, obviously after Hurt Locker and The Town, and then get the opportunity to do this role, what do you think?
Well, first of all, he's one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my entire life. He's a phenomenal actor. What I knew he was going to be, other than, first of all, we were doing this one silly scene where I had already stolen the scene, so I was off and this close up. I went, shoot, this dude can act, because it was very, this dude really can act. I mean, I was like, because this senior trip was what it was. According to Fairley Brothers, it was a great script until the studios got a hold of it and ruined it. But it was still Jeremy was, I was like, dude, this kid can really freaking act. And then when he did the sequel to 28 Days, 20, is it 28?
Oh, yeah. 20. Yeah, exactly.
He had like 7 lines of dialogue in the entire movie. But you remember him because it was what he was never saying that you're going, I was like, man, Jeremy, this kid can really, really, really act. And then, the introduction, the Thor, he was just about ready to shoot him. And that was basically it. But him being into that universe, he can do so much with given so little, and he can make himself very memorable, and, I couldn't have been happier. And then the Hawkeye series, I'm like, that's the reason why we continued our Disney Plus, is because I got to support Jeremy. And then also when I found out they had Hailee, Hailee Steinfeld. I very rarely ever want to write a fan letter, but when I saw Edge of 17,
she's so good at it.
What's interesting, that's not necessarily made for me,
right?
But I wanted to write her and the director a fan letter because they really made us a pretty amazing movie. And I'm very excited that's the key to these comic book, these movies that are based on comic book. You got to put great actors in there to fill in the, and then also kind of cheat a storyline. Like I always say one of my favorite of the whole Marvel universe is Winter Soldier, which is basically 3 Days of the Condor.
Right. Yes.
Where they take that, they kind of, they do a little, they go, yes, whatever we do, this is the A, B, and C to make it interesting. So the way the key is I think putting in actors that can act, and, and she can, and so can he. So it's going to be really, I don't know how long of the series he's going to, more the inside track of how long he's going to be in the series.
I'm guessing. Well, so we don't know if this is like WandaVision. It's just going to be a one-shot sort of mini series, or if it's going to be like Loki. Well, they'll do a second season. I don't think that's been announced yet. I think the assumption is Jeremy's probably just going to be in this one season, passing the mantle. But you know, we'll wait and see. And I also just wanted to say real quick, I'm from Boston. And I grew up with like 5 guys that were Jeremy Renner from the town. Like he knows, like every guy I grew up with in the 80s and 90s in Boston, that is that character he played in the town. Yeah, and also, unbelievable.
Also, I know Jeremy's regular speaking voice like very, very well.
Right.
And he grabbed, I mean, it took me just a second because, you know, like in other words, you're watching, oh, this is my friend. And then I went, man, he really lit up this dialect. But not only that, I'll tell you how good of a movie that is. And Jamie and I have a bunch of mutual friends. I am notoriously known to go to the bathroom a lot during the movie because I drink a lot of liquids. I saw The Town. I had to sit in the front row. I did not leave. I sat and held it because it was so good. Also, that was a movie where I went, man, Ben Affleck can direct the crap out of a movie. He did such a good job.
Renner's accent was so good, he out Bostoned Affleck. So, which is quite a thing to say.
This is what I can't wait to have another. Eventually, hopefully, our paths will really cross. We're gonna have some candid acting conversations with him. But he's able to pull out humor,
right,
in some of the most intense situations that I want to go, was that your take? Was that scripted? Is that what you were directed, or did you just do that? But there's the moment where he calls out and then he just pops, he knows how to find, he's also a very funny kid. If you know the guy, he's a very funny guy, even though he plays a lot of intense characters. And then he just has that ability to he can get a laugh out of something just by his reaction. Was it The Bourne Legacy?
He was in Legacy. Yeah.
He was in Legacy. There's a moment in the car where he's having the conversation with the woman and then he finds out they refer to him as a number. The reaction he has is he's so hurt that I was just a number. It was so good. He's great. And I mean, and to put those two together, that's definitely gonna be something to watch. And also they don't chintz on the writing staff either, the Disney.
That's true. That's true. Wendy, what was your reaction to this photo, and how excited are you for this series?
I'm excited because I think, one, I can't wait to see Yelena march in and see what she's going to do when she finds Hawkeye. And two, I am such a big fan, just like Eric, such a big fan of Hailee Steinfeld. I loved her in Edge of 17. I loved her in Bumblebee. And I was just like, man, I'm so happy she's in the MCU. I think she's going to make a great Kate Bishop. And I think this sets up for us Young Avengers. We're starting to see the little footsteps out there. So I think you're right. I think it may be a 1-season show. We don't know anything about it. We don't even know how many episodes and how long each episode's going to be. I'm guessing 6. That's what I'm going to guess, just because of the release schedule. It's going to bump up against something else. And because of this, like Disney Plus wants to premiere all new shows on Wednesdays. So if I think what they've got coming in December, they don't want to do this they don't want to bottleneck their own shows. So I'm super excited about this. It looks like, though, this photo, I don't know. I almost want to say like, it looks like final scene, like he's leaving and like, you're in charge now, but I don't know how they would give us a first look that gives you a look into the last episode. And she's not in like her superhero costume yet. It's like a purple training costume. So I don't know, but I love everything that we're seeing so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's with the bullseye behind her. I think training was sort of where I was going with it. Well, we got a few more things we want to cover here, so we'll go through them a little quickly. We dropped on Friday, I believe it was, a new Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings poster. This is sort of the top half of the poster. You can see the Mandarin there and Awkwafina and Michelle Yeoh as well, and of course Shang-Chi. In the bottom of the poster, which you can see on our cover on YouTube for the show, the full poster, in the bottom left-hand corner is the image that all of us are assuming is the Abomination, Eric Roth's character from The Incredible Hulk. So we have to wait until we see the movie if it really is the Abomination and if it is Tim Roth as the Abomination. But let me just go through. Let's start with you, Wendy. What did you think of this new poster? I'm assuming this is the final poster. Movie opens in September, and we're getting pretty close.
Honestly, at first when I saw it, I was like, oh, I don't know. It didn't pop at me. But then the more I looked at it, the more it grew on me because of where they have Shang-Chi, Simu Liu kind of standing, obviously, forefront, but with his father, the Mandarin, like kind of looming in the background, and he's kind of framed by the 10 rings. So once I kind of taken a step back on my initial reaction, kind of looked at everything, I was like, yeah, I kind of like this, that the rings are shown, the two major characters are shown, then we still have, like the Queen, Michelle Yeoh, still on the poster with some epic battle going on in the very front. I'm excited for this movie. I've been waiting for Shang-Chi ever since the announcement was made in San Diego Comic-Con 2018, 2019, one of those years.
It seems like a million years ago.
Eons ago. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it does. It's just interesting what you said about your first reaction to it, because it does look to me kind of like a classic MCU poster. It reminds me of like the original Iron Man poster, or Iron Man 2 or Doctor Strange or some of the other sort of origin story movie posters that they've done in the past. So I liked it. I did notice there's no Wong in it. So whether Wong's in the movie or not, we're still waiting to find out. But they seem to be going hard with that abomination or whatever that creature is. So that was interesting to see that in the poster. Now, Eric, I know you were a big fan of Iron Fist and a lot of the martial arts comics that Marvel was doing in the 70s, right?
Hold on. Well, that's a you're playing loose with the term big fan.
Okay.
You're playing fast and loose. Oh no, it was one of the few comic books that because I was introduced to it as a child. This is terrible. I have a very short attention span. I know most of my comic legend is from the television or cartoons that someone would air. But I did remember because I was really wanting to do martial arts as a kid, and a friend of mine gave me Iron Fist, and then of course, long story, but I didn't have the ability to be a collector because of certain things in my life. So I never got to collect comic books. But when I went to do research on this, I got down a rabbit hole on the YouTube, being thrown into some, like, this guy that was breaking down this film, and why they chose rings versus I guess as opposed to rings on the fingers, and went through the whole thing, and I was like, oh, that's right. They made a lot of cultural changes to make it more appropriate. But I mean, as far as the poster, you're right. Let's go back to the poster. You're right. It looks like a Marvel movie. He's got all the people that the influences. How his father gives him the ultimatum. You get 10 years on your own, then you got to come back, which is the reverse of mine. I only got to live with my parents for 10 years, and they said, you're on your own, never come back.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. I need some milk. It was just really, interesting. Then I'm still, I like Aquafina. I haven't quite warmed fully up to her yet, but this would be the movie, because it looks like they're throwing her as the kind of his buddy, right? Or no, are they brother and sister? Or they no?
I think they're friends.
They're friends, right?
I think so.
Because his father is the bad dude, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And this is the struggle. Does he go and fulfill his bad past, or does he become a good guy? Which is, that's pretty cool. I mean, like, you look at it and go, this is pretty awesome stuff. This is like, this is good versus evil. I'm all in.
And you were talking earlier about Winter Soldier being 3 Days of the Condor. I've heard that this is Enter the Dragon, that there's a tournament. And that's where we'll see Abomination, and maybe a few mutants are introduced. I mean, those are rumors. We don't know. But it's all very interesting. This is really interesting. So Wendy and I have been talking about, since we started the show at the beginning of the year. Zack Snyder's Justice League was coming out, which was a big deal, and we were very excited. And one of the sad things when that kind of came out and was as good as it was and then ended was that, like, Warner Brothers sort of is trying to distance itself from the Snyderverse and kind of create their own thing. But then there are these interesting castings, like bringing Kiersey Clemons back as Iris West, when she was cast by Zack Snyder for The Flash, and Affleck is in The Flash. And now it's been announced that J.K. Simmons, the amazing Academy Award-winning actor, is in talks to reprise his role as Commissioner Gordon in the Batgirl HBO Max film, which was just cast with Leslie Grace. So, for a company that's trying to distance itself from Zack Snyder, they're really embracing a lot of Zack Snyder's casting here. Now, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, look, J.K. Simmons is awesome. You know what I mean? He's one of the best actors of his age, of his sort of, range, and what he's able to do. And he's got an Academy Award, and, he's in demand. And so it does make sense to me that Warner Brothers, would want to stick with him or be in the J.K. Simmons business. And he, I think, is a great Commissioner Gordon. We didn't really get to see a lot of him in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I mean, he looks like the character. But it is interesting that, Wendy, what do you make of what Warner Brothers is doing here?
I think maybe the Snyderverse isn't dead. That's what I'm thinking. When the Kiersey Clemons thing made sense, right? Because she was kind of prominently shown, and the casting probably had already happened. And she's fantastic. We'd want to see what happens with that. But they didn't have to bring J.K. Simmons back. They could have just recast that entire thing because, it's no one's seen this Batgirl yet at all. So, we've never had a Batgirl movie until now. So it could have been many actors up for the role, but they decided to bring back J.K. Simmons, who we all know, you can't shy away from the fact that he was in Justice League. So that kind of says to me, maybe, and people can change their minds all the time, which is totally fine. And they can realize, hey, there was a story here. It's a really fantastic story, and maybe we let it live, or maybe we let it live in a universe, because we play with multiverses, in across superhero comics. So we can kind of see them doing it that way as well. So I welcome this casting news.
Wendy, let me ask you this real quick, because do you think that this means that this Batgirl takes place in, for lack of a better term, the Snyderverse? Or do you think this is like what JK is doing in the Spider-Man films, where he's reprising his role as J. Jonah Jameson from the Sam Raimi movies, but he's a different J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU Spider-Mans? Do you think he could be a different Gordon than the Justice League Gordon?
Potentially, because I'm going to assume the Batgirl movie comes after the Flash movie. I'm not sure about the date, but I'm going to guess so, because they just started casting.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so with the Flash, he can open up the Flashpoint paradox. He can play with the timelines. So I think absolutely he could be a version of Commissioner Gordon, and it may not tie exactly back to the sun. But don't kill my dream of wanting the Snyder.
I wanted to. Eric, were you a fan of? Did you see Zack Snyder's Justice League? Did you compare that to Joss Whedon's? And just in general, what do you think of J.K.?
First of all, J.K. is one of my favorite actors. I've loved him since Oz.
I knew you were going to say Oz.
And because this is that me and my we used to get really baked after I would do stand up and come home and watch Oz, and just because it was so. What's good? The first couple seasons were so well acted. I mean, it was so, and he was so good, and also, he started off chunky in Oz, and then he had gotten kind of lazy, and then he ended up becoming vulnerable. So then he got back into fighting. It's a weird. It's some really good. He's a phenomenal actor. And then what he did in the movie he did just recently did is it Tomorrow War?
He's very good at Tomorrow War,
and jacked, and just he's such a great actor now. Zack Snyder, if you're listening, I will work with you in a heartbeat because you're Snack Cider. But I was such a big fan of 300 and such a big fan of Watchmen. And then
Watchmen is a masterpiece.
Yes. I don't think there's a line of dialogue in the first 35 minutes. It's just come gather around, and it's so beautiful. And then he kind of lost me as a watcher. I just haven't been able to, and then the first I just didn't get I couldn't get into Justice League, and I love Batman and I love the concept of Justice League, but I I guess it was part of that. They developed the Justice League, or what they grabbed from the Justice League was after I had kind of aged out. I had aged out of the universe. The Justice League I watched was the Saturday morning cartoons from the 70s. So I had kind of aged out, so I didn't really bond with them as much, and he kind of lost me. Now, that being said, I will definitely watch J.K. Simmons. I didn't know J.K. Simmons was in Justice. Now I might have to pop in to watch. And look, I'm not a player. I actually think Ben Affleck is probably going to be a good Batman. I'm really very excited because he is Batman. We joke about it. I mean, let's be quite honest. He cheated on one of the most beautiful women in the world, and then was still hanging. Then there's pictures of him later on, like still. I mean, that is Superman, for God's sakes. He's Batman. He's awesome. And he's a great actor.
I would definitely recommend watching Zack Snyder's 4-hour Justice League on HBO Max.
Do that one. Do that one instead.
Skip the Joss Whedon. You don't want to see
that.
Well,
I couldn't get through the Joss Whedon one.
That's why. That's why.
I couldn't get through it.
Yes.
I'm very. Who's directing Batgirl? I mean, have they?
It's the directors who did Bad Boys 3, which shockingly was great. Like Bad Boys 3.
Yes. So that's
a good movie,
one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, well, here's the thing: is I hopefully, they got J.K. Simmons and they'll use him. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to say that,
right.
And he is in the mythology. He's her father, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that has got to be, that's always interesting because I'm a fan of the Batman TV show when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And you always joke around going, how did he not know that was his daughter? or did he? I can't remember if he did know she was his daughter.
He didn't on the TV show, and in the comics, like in the 40s and 50s when she was first introduced, they don't know. But in the current continuity, he's known for a long time. They couldn't keep that going in the real world. We just wouldn't find that.
It's your daughter, for goodness sakes. You should know. Go ahead.
Well, I was just we got a couple more things we wanted to get to right before the end of the show here. So we actually, a couple of trailers were dropped last week and then today. And a big one today was the second trailer, and assumingly probably the final trailer for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And of course, here we see, this is the new photo that was released today of Carnage. And of course, Woody Harrelson is playing the character. The trailer I thought was really good. I mean, I liked the first trailer. It's got that great Amy Man. One is the loneliest stuff, right? It's just so fun with them. Yeah, it's got a lot of fun to it. I mean, the first one I think had some problems. A lot of people say it felt like a 90s superhero movie. But in that sense, like I like that kind of almost like, I know, like my cousin's son is 14 and he's obsessed with Venom. I mean, Venom is like made for 14-year-old kids and boys especially. And so I like the second trailer giving us an opportunity to see a little bit more of Woody, a little bit more of Carnage. Wendy, what did you think is getting you excited for the new movie?
Yeah, I was already excited because I've been wanting to see Carnage on screen for a long time, and you couldn't do it because it had to be rated R. If you read any of the comics, like Carnage literally, like in the most literal term, creates carnage. So when they finally said they're going to do it, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, let's see if they do it right. So getting a little bit more of a look at Carnage and what he does, like shoving one of his extremities down that guy's throat, I'm here for it. And I'd like to see a little bit more of Cletus Cassidy as well. Like, I like that we were able to see a little bit more of that in this trailer because it's been so Venom heavy, which makes sense because it's a Venom movie. But we also, as greedy fans, we're like, kind of give us more Carnage.
I agree with you. I hope that there's a good amount of sort of cat and mouse, almost like Dark Knight Joker in The Dark Knight, right? Between them before Woody goes full CGI. I would really like to see Woody and Tom Hardy kind of go at it actor-wise. And then, then the other thing I'll say before I pass to you, Eric, is I'm super excited Andy Serkis is directing this movie. The director of and I'm blanking on his name right now, but he directed Zombieland movies. Rufus, no, well, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
Ruben, somebody. But she directed the first. Ruben Fleischer directed the first.
Yes.
Venom, and I think some of the maybe shortcomings of that film could be pointed to as the director. And I think Andy Serkis has a much sort of larger scope and bigger ideas, and I just am really excited to see how the tone of Venom 2 is different than the first one because of the director change. Erica, were you a fan of the first Venom? Are you excited for Carnage?
I'm actually, I did not make it through the first, but I'll man up. I did not like the first one. I just did not.
I get it.
When I saw the trailer for this and I saw Woody Harrelson, and then when he said, "I've tasted blood, that's not blood," I'm like, okay, this is gonna, I'm getting a little bit of, I'm getting chills because they're going off of, they're doing a little Hannibal Lecter kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's really interesting. Also, I think they, at least in this trailer, they revealed a little bit more humor with being, with Tom Hardy being Venom, like a little bit of that kind of thing, you know, being torn in his head. And I go, this could be a lot more fun. And then, you know, Woody Harrelson, I will always, he's a national treasure. I'm excited to watch him because once again, he is a great actor, and you put him in that role, at least when he's when he's him. That's what I'm saying. I hope there's a little bit of cat and mouse, and there's a lot more with him before he becomes full CGI.
Yeah.
There's only been one actor that seemed to kind of dodge that was, Josh Brolin in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Considering, you know, how much he kind of slipped it. But that'll be it. I mean, it'll be great. And like I said, what made me really am very interested in watching this was showing how much humor they infused. They put a lot more humor in this. So even like, you know, when he, I guess, you know, his ex-wife or girlfriend,
Michelle Williams.
And he slips when he's saying goodbye to them, you know, and slap. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a good, fun, a super villain turning into superhero movie, right? Because the first Venom, he was more of a villain, correct? And now he's one of those characters in the Marvel universe that sort of crosses over and becomes a good, more of a hero, right?
I think they play him a little bit more heroic in the movies.
Like a little anti-hero.
He's Punisher, he's Deadpool, he's kind of in that Deadshot, that kind of area. Well, one more trailer we're going to hit real quick before we end the show, and that is for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Again, coming out in October, assuming this was the final trailer, we got a shot here of Paul Rudd with the what do you even call it? The ecto, with the traps, the ghost traps.
The ghost traps.
Yeah, and the trailer was fun. Also, we got to see a little bit more of how the film is going to handle the mythology. Annie Potts actually appears in the trailer. It's very clear now that the kid is the granddaughter of Igor and Egon. And then at the very end of the trailer, we got just a quick shot of sort of
Aykroyd.
a voiceover of assumingly Dan Aykroyd. And one would assume that Ernie Hudson. I've heard that Sigourney Weaver and Bill Murray will also appear in the movie as their original characters, not as other characters as they did in the last Ghostbusters. So I was a little underwhelmed, I should say, by the first trailer. I was a little, not excited about this. And it's got a different vibe than the first Ghostbusters. It almost seems more like Stand By Me, Goonies tone to it, which is interesting. I'm not sure how it's going to do box office wise, but I'm much more excited about seeing this now that the second trailer's out. Wendy, what were your thoughts?
I lost my damn mind over this trailer because I grew up on Ghostbusters, right? Like my dad showed it to me whenever my mom was out because I wasn't allowed to watch like anything she considered scary. She's like, don't have her watch that. So naturally, my dad would show me Top Gun, Ghostbusters, all the good movies. Don't tell your mother. So growing up with it, this definitely hits all the nostalgia points that the marketing team definitely like 100% did for me. I love that we're keeping the legacy of the original four,
Yes.
and we're seeing the torch sort of passed onto the grandkids, not intentionally, by kids being being a little, bored and wanting to dig at stuff. And McKenna Grace looks so good as Phoebe, and you can see the resemblance to Egon with the glasses and the little curly hair. Reminds me of the Ghostbusters cartoon because it's like the same style of hair. And then when they just took Ecto-1 for a joyride, that was it for me. And funny thing to see Finn Wolfhard in this movie, because in Stranger Things, him and his buddies dressed up as Ghostbusters, and now he is probably going to don the suit as a junior Ghostbusters or something like that. Love the trailer. And I think we saw Gozer. Hand?
Yes.
Their hand?
A buddy of mine is so geeked out just because of that. But I am so lucky I didn't get to see the first trailer for this, because your disappointment, JD, was so much that I only saw this. And I am like, I am going to triple mask it. I am going to do whatever, ever possible to see that in the theater. It is a trailer that reminds me of when I was a kid that goes, I want to do this.
Right.
I want to do, I want to be part of this this world. And first of all, Jason Reitman can direct the crap out of a movie. I think it's awesome that the producers, is letting that happen. You can tell it. I actually like that it has like a little more of a Goonie-ish kind of feel, because it's dealing with the children. So I think that was sort of a smart choice that it's kind of going that way. And it had, and I love me some Amy. Is it Amy Potts, right? Is that her name? Or Annie Potts?
Oh, Annie Potts.
Annie Potts, yeah.
And I was just telling my buddy yesterday when we were talking about, we're talking about this film, and I was going to be on this podcast. I remember that I could not see Ghostbusters because it was sold out for like 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
And this is back when you had to stand in line and all that. So I was late going to the Ghostbusters party simply because every time I would show up, it would be sold out. And my old roommate from college that ended up becoming my roommate out here for a while, Kurt Marzoff, we watched Ghostbusters incessantly when it came on. I think eventually when it got on to HBO or one of the mini channels, we watched it over and over again. Or actually we watched it in college again. That's right. We this is when you had to rent a VCR.
Yes.
To watch it. And we would play basketball. And this is back when I was overweight and he was very tall, and we were very deceptive because no one would guard me. So they would, and then of course I would shoot, and we'd always go, we had the tools, we had the talent. We would just quote lines from Ghostbusters so much.
Right, it's very quotable.
And now when you watch this, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about how much fun it will be to be in that theater, seeing that movie on the big screen, and just being transported to being a kid again. Because that's what I'm saying. What I love about the abilities we still have. Like when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy in the theater, I cried because I was like, oh my God, I feel like a child. I feel that experience of getting so lost. So hopefully that will be the same thing with Ghostbusters Afterlife. But now tell myself, lower expectations. So you're not disappointed. So then you're overwhelmed. But it looks so amazing. It looks so good.
Can't wait. Yeah, coming out this fall. Very exciting for that. And unfortunately, that's all the time. We could sit here and talk about this stuff all day long. Eric and Wendy, I want to thank you both. I also want to thank all of you for watching today and tuning in. I want to remind you that we are just one of the shows that the Hollywood Critics Association has been launching this year. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tune in to Pop Council every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We also have The Long Box with Tessa Smith and Junita Davis, Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Horrifically Horrifying on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. with Heather Wixton and Kevin Taft. What to Stream on Thursdays at 11 a.m. hosted by Morgan Rojas. And What's Trending in Hollywood on Fridays at 11 a.m. hosted by Scott Menzel. Wendy, what a great show. Thank you so much. Let everyone know where they can check you out.
Thanks, Jamie. It was so much fun. I feel like we could have gone like a whole another hour just talking. Maybe next time we'll do like an extended episode. You can find me everywhere at Wendy Lee Zaney, just this right here. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the Movie Couple channel.
Awesome. And Eric Edwards, yay! Thank you so much for being our guest today. Let everyone know where they can check you out on social. If you have anything else coming up you want to plug.
Eric Edwards 1, ONE, is both Instagram and Twitter. Which I'm not very much on Twitter as much as because I don't like to get depressed. But also Eric Edwards on Facebook. And ericedwards.com is being revamped. I will be doing a lot more social media now that the world's kind of getting back to normal. And unfortunately, everything I can plug, I cannot because of NDA.
You'll have to come back when it's coming out.
No, I would love to.
And
this has been Jamie, this has been just a blast. Nice meeting you, Wendy.
Awesome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
It was a great little boost to the ego. It's so weird that you forget. I go, wow, I was in Blade. That's a good movie.
You were in Blade.
I was in Candyman. Those are great movies.
Damn right. That's right. Let me just say goodbye to everyone. Thank you, Eric. I'm Jami Philbrick. You can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Philbrick and Facebook, Jami Philbrick. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you all next week. Till then, stay nerdy. Woohoo!